There is a trend happening right now, which I love, but I believe it warrants a deeper conversation. If you've been seeing matriarchy now, or even have been sharing that or saying that yourself, I agree. We need a change. We need to shift to an egalitarian model of society where there is more equality and life is centered instead of extracted from. But to do that, we have to divorce the patriarchy if we're going to marry the matriarchy. The patriarchy is crumbling. It will do that all by itself because it is an extractive system. It's not regenerative. It eats itself alive. Leaving the patriarchy and the matrix paradigm that we're living in right now is a lot like leaving a relationship because ultimately it is a relationship. So, how do we leave the relationship that we're in while we're still living in the house with it? How do we divorce the patriarchy while it is still the governing system of the Western world and of most of the world altogether? Well, it starts with ourselves. It's personal. We don't need more healing because we're not broken. We may be wounded, but the real medicine is connection with ourselves, connection with source, spirit, whatever you want to refer to it as, connection with nature, and connection with each other. When connection comes into play, it dissolves the entire patriarchal operating system because it thrives on separation, fragmentation, and disconnection. So, integrating into wholeness is the way we build a new world on a personal level. And then it can move into our relational and our social worlds and into culture and economy. And then it becomes the whole thing. It doesn't all happen at once. You, as a human being, have to decondition from your patriarchal conditioning and your beliefs and your value system and the way that you show up in the world. We have to stop participating in them. Otherwise, it's just a performance. It's not real. It's not rooted. The conditioning that we are unraveling from, disconnecting from, is the belief that your worth is equated to your productivity, your output, your usefulness, the need to earn rest, love, or belongingness, the pressure to perform, to prove, to perfect. Then you are always going to be giving, always. And one of the main things here is we have to stop disconnecting from our bodies, from our truth, from our intuition and our wisdom. If we remember that everything is already sourced inside of us, then we stop seeking externally. And that means not self-abandoning. So in this first layer of personal deconditioning from the patriarchy, you are reclaiming self-trust, sovereignty, embodiment, cyclical living, tuned to nature, to your human nature as well as Earth's nature and the cosmic movements. Enoughness, you're reclaiming enoughness. There's nothing to prove, there's nothing to earn, there's nothing to suppress, and there's nothing to justify. If you are interested in this work in your own life, I would love to invite you to my 7-day recalibration called Attuned. This is about deepening connection with yourself, secure relating, which allows you to experience life in a whole new way. More joy, more magic, miracles, rest, relaxation. You anchor into sovereignty. That begins with attunement, being with, connection to. The second layer is relational, social. It's community. And it's how we stop recreating this toxic patriarchal system with each other. So you do the inner work with yourself first, but then it comes into practice in your everyday interactions. And even highly aware people unconsciously recreate patriarchy in relationships because it's so embedded in our subconscious minds. Relationally and socially, we are divorcing power over dynamics, meaning hierarchy, which is built on control, dominance, and manipulation. Even marketing tactics are deeply rooted in this emotional suppression. Instead, we're moving into power with dynamics. Instead, we need power with dynamics. This is mutual respect, sovereignty and connection, collaboration. We're leaving the emotional suppression and avoidance. And instead, we're taking emotional responsibility. So, feeling without projecting it onto anyone else, owning what is moving through us, what our experience is, and then doing something with that, truly alchemizing it. What is this feeling? What is this emotion asking me? Because emotions are messengers. But part of the separation and the fragmentation is avoid and suppress so that we don't know what that messenger is telling us. And then we start to look outside of ourselves for answers that have been here all along and start screaming at us, particularly through our health, through our body. Transactional relating. This is being replaced with clear boundaries, reciprocity, and also not having expectations for someone to give in return unless you have expressed that. So we're not keeping score. We're not doing conditional love. I will if you will, unless we're communicating that clearly and openly. We're not punishing people for the way that they are showing up. We're self-honoring instead. Say, I see this is as far as you can meet me. And so these are the boundaries. This is as much as I can give based on the reciprocity that you're able to meet me in. This requires deep self-awareness, self-honesty, and grief, because there are going to be relationships that are lost when other people aren't able to meet you at the level that you want them to be, when they can't come to those standards that you have in your life. But you would be surprised at how many people will rise to those standards if you actually communicate them and set them and hold them. And the example that it models, I have found in many relationships that when I have set a boundary, when I've communicated a standard, the other person felt like they actually have permission to do the same now. And not in a way of like for tat, but like, I didn't know it could be so simple. I didn't know that I was allowed to do that. Another part there is we're no longer overgiving or self-abandoning in order to maintain connection. When it comes to our relationships, there's going to be change. Dynamics are going to change. There's going to be rupture before there's repair. And that's scary. I get it. But in order to enter into reciprocity and giving and receiving in balance, which doesn't mean 50-50, it means that this is where I can meet you and you can meet me, and we're both aware of that and understand it. We have to be honest. We have to be authentic. We have to be okay with the discomfort that comes with these hard conversations. And then we're also leaving the hierarchy of who knows more, who leads, who follows. Because if we're all self-led, there is no hierarchy. We're here all sitting at the table. We are communicating, collaborating. And that's devotional relationships, where we choose the relationships. We're conscious about the relationships that we're engaging in, that we're participating in our lives. And we know what our obligations are in community, because there are obligations. There are places that we have to show up even when we don't feel like it, when we have made commitments. But that doesn't mean self-abandoning. Still, we can communicate when we say, hey, I'm not going to be able to show up for this in the way that I had anticipated, right? And now we can all collaborate together to see, okay, if you can only show up 40% as expected, where can we close the gap? Because we don't need to carry the burden alone on our shoulders. We don't have to. We're in this together, but we have to be honest. We have to communicate. And this social change that I'm talking about it's about motherhood, partnerships, friendships, workplaces. We're raising children without domination, coercion, or control. Conscious parenting is a part of this. How am I meeting them? How am I attuned to them? We're modeling emotional safety instead of authority-based fear. Like, I need you to do this because you're scared of the consequences. No, real life consequences allows children, even small children, toddlers, to make sovereign decisions. I don't want to do that because I know the outcome. Not because I'm afraid of it, because I'm consciously choosing it, because I've been told or I've witnessed it, or I can just put it together myself logically that this equation is not the experience that I want to have, and so I can choose differently. We're letting children be sovereign beings instead of extensions of our own identity, being useful, being our performance, having expectations of who they should be and what they should do. No, we are teaching them foundations of, or modeling to them foundations of humanity, community, sovereignty, so that they can make conscious choices and participate in a way that is authentic to them, and learn how to communicate as well with emotional intelligence, with mental wellness, with embodiment, presence, and honesty, because they're not afraid of what the truth will do to other people, because everyone is responsible for their own response, their own experience. I don't need to say that someone else needs to be a certain way for me to be comfortable. I just say, if that's what's true for you and this is what's true for me, then this is the place that we can meet with these boundaries, these standards, in this way. And that's that. And if things change, then we can reconsider and recalibrate that. And this is where the new world, the matriarchy, comes visible in real life. Culture is built through community values, through what we create together collaboratively. It becomes the norm. This is an ongoing practice in order to repeat a new behavior that becomes truth. So the stories, the norms, and identities that we normalize start here in ourselves, in our homes, in our families, in our relationships, and in our community and our workspaces. And this starts, it expands and amplifies into culture. So what are we leaving? What are we leaving culturally? The hustle. Because for an extractive system, this is incredibly beneficial. We're just giving. But burnout is not a badge of honor. You guys, burnout just means that you've self-abandoned and self-sacrificed for something that's not reciprocating to you. It means that you have been in a toxic relationship, whether it's with your work, with motherhood, with a friendship, with your art. Burnout means that you have not honored yourself in the process of whatever it is that you are investing and devoting to. We need to normalize rest, presence, pleasure, the things that fill us up, the things that are regenerative, our health. Speaking of health, beauty standards rooted in control, minimizing, making small, and youthful appearances. It is a rite of passage to have gray hair. It's a rite of passage to have stretch marks, to mean that your body has expanded and changed and moved and evolved. Women are especially held to a certain standard that says that we're not enough, that says that we don't belong, that says that we're not deserving. You can look at yourself in the mirror, the way that you communicate to yourself, the ways that you shrink, and see where you've been conditioned. And maybe even the judgments you have for other people. Any judgment you have towards others is a judgment that lives inside of you as well. We need to have reverence for the feminine. And I don't just mean women. I'm talking about feminine energy, feminine principles. That's nature. What brings life has to go through cycles. There has to be decay in order for there to be nourishment. And what does that look like in a matriarchal society? We need to see real bodies, real experiences, real lives, real rhythms, instead of expecting things to be the same all the time. That's very masculine, which there's nothing wrong with. The masculine hormone cycle is 24 hours. It just does the same thing. The feminine cycle is about 28 days. It fluctuates, it moves, it flows. We have to honor that and stop shaming rest, softness, emotion, or slowness. These are parts of the ebbs and flows, the natural cycles of life, of living, of being alive. And culturally, something else that is embedded in us is independence. Even from the time we have babies, we say, oh, they need to be independent. Let them play independently. Teach them to be independent. I have removed that from my vocabulary. We want our children and ourselves to be autonomous, sovereign, able to self-source, self-identify, but we don't need them to be independent, meaning they don't need anybody else, because that's not the way we're built as human beings. We are tribal, as are all mammals. Whether you have a pack or a group, a family, a herd, we are meant to work together. It's not sustainable to do it all alone. There is a social need inside of us. We need to be together in relationship for a healthy experience, community care instead of isolation. And that's been part of the toxic patriarchy system, is break apart the homes, right? We used to have multi-generational homes or tribes that lived together in close community, close connection all the time. There was accountability, shared resources. But the toxic patriarchy and capitalism works better if we're all buying our own individual homes, we're all buying our own individual cars, right? Instead of shared resources. And also, if the resources are controlled by the system, then the people are controlled by the system and must work in the hamster wheel in order to survive. We're moving out of the survival paradigm. We are so done with just surviving. Our needs are met naturally by Earth. We don't need all of this extra stuff. We just need to be in connection with ourselves and Earth and each other. And the idea that success equals a status or wealth or some sort of visibility, because this hierarchy, that is oppressive. What we actually want is success that feels rooted in our personal values and our personal calling, our unique energetic blueprint. Lastly, in culture that holds accountability, that passes down wisdom, that shares resources, and holds each other through every experience, the highs and the lows, and allows you to be a full human expression, there is storytelling that reflects truth, not performance, which is what's happened on social media. It's a lot of performance. It's curated. You see a highlight reel, or you see fragments of what people want you to see in their lives. And a lot of things are hidden because this is messy. I'm still in process. I haven't figured it out. And thus we see a lot of completed projects, completed art, and not what it took to get there, which lacks depth. It lacks honesty. We need rawness. We need realness. That helps us remember, oh, look at this process. Look at this methodology. Look at the way that they have come through this experience and who they've become along the way and everything that was gathered. And sometimes when we share our stories, stuff that we don't even pick up on as valuable or important because maybe it's just really natural and close to us, other people say, oh my goodness, that's amazing. That's a permission slip for me. That's a lesson for me. That's art. This is how we break the spell of the toxic structure, the matrix that we live in right now. Self, relationships and community, culture, and then economically. Because the power is existing right now where the money is, where the resources are. We have to remember that we are very resourceful. We don't actually need the money to be resourceful. Money is a conduit for resources. It's an energetic resource. But if we were to all plant seeds and be cultivating food, if we were all to come together and share the resources that we have, the food, the water, the knowledge, the wisdom, the skills, we would actually be quite rich. Wealth isn't just about money. Wealth is emotional intelligence. Wealth is sovereignty. Wealth is safe community. There's so many things that signify wealth that we have forgotten, that we've been conditioned to forget. But we can reclaim them, and it doesn't require money. It requires intention and devotion. This is how change becomes sustainable, where we regain the power. The people now have it instead of the toxic structures, the governments, the billionaires. It's through economy. We are divorcing the idea that time equals money. We're not exchanging our life for survival. That is not the only model of value. A value-based economy is in your being, your wisdom, your presence. All of those are value. What do you bring to the table through your experience, through your natural blueprint, through what you've integrated, your creativity, your ideas, your innovation? These things are so important. We are stepping away from the idea that overwork is the path to security. The generations before us taught us that because that's what they were taught to believe. That there's a difference between work ethic and overworking. Work ethic can still be strong even if you only work 2 hours a day. It doesn't require you to work, I put in 15 hours, so I have a great work ethic. No, that's not necessarily true. You are just still succumbing to the belief system that you have to self-abandon and self-sacrifice in order to have your needs met or to belong or to be successful. We want sustainable business models. This is where it's aligned with life and not extracting from it. It's not consuming. That's what's been happening, and we are all overdrawn. The extractive business models are where burnout and scaling at a cost and not valuing human beings, underpaying them and overworking them. That's where this is happening. People are just no longer buying into it. We see what's happening. Warehouses are being burned down. People are saying, I'll pay the consequences. I don't care anymore because I'm not willing to live this way. And that disruption is liberating. We have to stop undervaluing care work like motherhood and emotional labor and taking care of the elderly and stewarding the land. These are one of the most underpaid jobs that we have in our society. And yet they're the most valuable. Our children, our elderly with their wisdom, humanity, our food, our animals, our clothing, all of these things, underpaid, under-resourced, undervalued. And these scarcity-driven decision making, because there's not enough, is what we've been convinced of. That's not true. It's just all pulling at the top and not trickling back down. It's not being regenerated. It's not being cycled. If we're saving for our retirement, okay, it makes sense. But if we actually lived in a life-centered model that was matriarchal, we could trust that we're going to be taken care of by our community. These things that are extractive, once they're gone, we have a regenerative model that circulates wealth and resources. We don't have to worry about hoarding. We want community-supported ecosystems, not isolated survival. We want to be in this together where we say, oh, I see this person needs something. Can we resource that? Or someone says, hey, I am in need of something. Can you help resource that? And we honor it. We honor life. We honor each other. We want to receive without overgiving or proving anything. I am valuable and important because I exist. And that applies for every human being. This was often modeled and learned early on because it was part of the culture. Children said, I want to help. Not because I have to, but because I'm a loving being and I want to give and share love. And I'm able-bodied and I'm learning and I'm having fun and I'm curious. And I have an intrinsic reward when I help, when I give, when I participate, when I support. So we're building ecosystems. We're bringing back the village. This is what matriarchy is, bringing back the village. How do we do that connection? How do we do that? Attunement to ourselves, attunement to others, attunement to what's happening at the world at large. When we zoom out, divorcing the patriarchy is not about destruction. It's not rejection of men. It's not flipping the hierarchy so that women are on top. No. This is ending unconscious allegiance to a system that disconnects us, that separates us, that fragments us as individuals and as a collective. We're stopping the internal replication of these patterns. We're doing the inner work, and then that becomes embodied and expressed and radiated into all the interaction that we have in the world, the way that we show up, the way that we participate. We're choosing new ways of living, relating, and building. We're letting the old system collapse from a lack of participation. If nobody shows up to the game, it doesn't happen. Stop participating. And this means we are giving to small businesses, shopping local, stop giving to the big billionaires, stop outsourcing your knowledge, your health, your well-being. Start where you are. If you can plant some seeds on the balcony of your apartment and try to learn how to grow a plant, you are anchoring into sovereignty. If you can start to sit with the uncomfortable truths that surface inside of you and be responsible for your own emotions and experience, you are reclaiming sovereignty. You are taking back your life. If you stop looking outside of yourself for validation and start to say, who am I? Who do I believe I am? And sit with that question and be with that and let what surfaces come up and start to work through it, extrapolate. So much value will come through for that. This is why people don't even like to meditate. I can't sit and feel the sensations and hear the thoughts that come through. What? I need distraction and avoidance. But that right there is exactly what allowed this system to come into play and own us. People want to divorce the patriarchy conceptually, but when it costs them approval, control, certainty, and security, their identity, the familiar structure of just how things work, belongingness, they avoid it. They'll continue to collapse back into that world. It takes devotion, it takes awareness, it takes intention, it takes connection. So we're living from this internally, outwardly, relationally, and beyond. If you're familiar with the nervous system, this is like co-regulation. But I don't like the word regulation. Regulation means control and shifting something back into a functional state. But being dysregulated isn't dysfunctional. It's actually a perfect design when you're activated either out of fear for survival or excitement for expansion. So we're attuning. We're not regulating. We're attuning to what's real, what's true, what's here now. And being present with that allows us to receive the magic, the joy, the beauty, the wealth that is available to us at all times and everyday moments. if you are interested in this work in your own life, I would love to invite you to my 7-day recalibration called Attuned. This is about deepening connection with yourself, secure relating, which allows you to experience life in a whole new way. More joy, more magic, miracles, rest, relaxation. You anchor into sovereignty. That begins with attunement, being with, connection to. Link is down below in the description box. I would love to see you there. It is live May 5th through 12th, but if you're watching this after that, you can also catch the replays. The link is there. Hope to see you soon. And we'll continue this conversation of divorcing the patriarchy and regenerating the matriarchy. Subscribe if you would like to hear more.